Hello and welcome to episode 42 of the Unknown Comics Podcast. I'm Brandon. That's Darren. That's Tanner. That's Chris. We're your quadra hosts.
And go.
And go.
I reject that quadra host.
We're like Voltron. We're like
Sounds dirty.
We're like Voltron. Only
Wait,
without.
we need another person.
Nah, we're a 4-person Voltron. We're a smaller Voltron.
It's like
Voltron
everything's 5s or 6s, right? Like Power Rangers.
That was 5.
There's
Voltron was
episodes
5.
of
Power Rangers got up to 6 with Tommy.
Transformers.
There's seasons of Power Rangers with only 3.
Well,
Was there?
They must not have been as powerful.
Transformers.
They couldn't get enough actors to apply.
Devastator was 6. Yeah, Devastator was 6. Minosaur was 5. Because he was like a tractor trailer was the body, so he only needed one, and then cars were the arms and legs.
Yeah, because most of them are 5. It's 1 for the torso and then arm, leg.
Devastator was his body was 2. Because they were all small. It was 6 small, and so that became Devastator.
Those things are expensive, by the way. Have you ever gone back and tried to buy the Combiner Transformers?
No.
Like, if you don't catch them when they first come out, they get stupid expensive real fast. And there is a dinosaur one with the Dinobots. There's a Dinobots Combiner.
Combiner?
Yeah, Combiner.
Wow, you just added a D to that doesn't exist. Combiner. No, the Dinobots were not combiners, but there were dinosaurs.
No, but there's a toy version where, like, Grimlock is the core.
Oh, like a reissue.
Yeah.
Hey, Tanner, did you know the Transformers were on her discussion topics today?
Of all the people who finally gives a crap about the rundown.
Well, it's because Darren always wants to give a crap about the rundown, so I'm giving him hell.
Do I? I don't usually get
Every time you're like, why are we talking about that? So I'm giving you crap about it.
I'm going to have to go back
I'm going
and
to
watch
stop
some of
putting
these podcasts.
rundowns on screens. Y'all can't see jack nothing. All right.
Jack nothing.
Welcome to the discussion. So tonight we're going to talk about news. Then we've got our discussion topic, which we can go ahead and talk about. It's about signatures, con signatures specifically, or just fan signatures in general. So we'll be discussing that later. Then we're going to take a break. We're going to come back. Tanner's going to leave us because he has not watched Dune yet, but the three of us have. So at the end of the show, then the spoiler zone.
Just so everybody knows what Tanner did instead of going to watch Dune, he went and watched
Six.
The band.
The band.
It's fun.
The band.
Is it all the original band?
I think so.
You don't even know.
No, they're probably half dead.
Sure none of them died?
Nah,
It's a lot of
I
drugs,
think they're
probably.
They're not the same.
So Tanner hasn't had a chance to watch it yet. We watched it last night, so we will do our reaction, our spoiler filled, which I'm having a hard time not spoiling Dune because the freaking story has been out for 45 years. Or no, 55 years. Since 1965. So
That would require reading.
okay. The movie has been out for 36 years.
That would require Googling.
The miniseries has been out for 20 years.
I'm 40. So I was 4 when that movie came out.
I have
That's
seen.
That's probably why I keep getting it confused with Wrath of Khan.
And you were 19 when the miniseries came out.
Well,
Now,
is that what 20 is minus 40?
was Bowie in the movie or the miniseries?
Bowie wasn't in any of it. Bowie was in Labyrinth. Sting was in the 84 movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I've seen the movie,
Same thing.
but it's been a while and it's a dense story, so I don't remember much of it.
It is.
It's a good story. I don't remember
that, and it was kind of a weird. David Lynch was the director of the 84 movie. It was a weird way to tell it.
He was sleeping when he was watching it.
David Lynch makes weird movies. Period. Like Mulholland Falls or Lost Highway and all those. They're just weird, heady movies to start with.
All I care about is the ultimate Easter egg that the MCU is tied to.
Stop. Okay, we'll get into that later. So in the news, big news this week for the MCU, Marvel moved everything.
Yep.
Just freaking moved everything.
And we were kind of watching the Batman trailer last night, and I leaned over to Brandon at the end. It was like, wait, did that say March? He's like, yeah. And I was,
That's why.
That's why Marvel moved absolutely everything.
I did.
Because it came out 2 weeks before the first Marvel movie.
I thought Doctor Strange was originally slated for February.
It was March.
Yeah, it was March. So
I just thought that Marvel was getting back in the rotation of
they put
our first week of May as ours.
it could be multi. I mean, there's a lot of
Kevin
reasons.
Feige came out and said it was because of it worked better. And I was like, yeah, of course it does, because you're not going to have to worry about Batman competing with you for Doctor Strange.
I did. Very ironic that you announced that 2 days after DC fandom.
And
Finally gave us a trailer.
And what I was telling Chris was,
date.
like, typically Marvel doesn't move for DC EU. Just typically.
Unless it's Batman.
Unless it's Batman.
Yeah,
like,
'cause-
there's kind of that weird hierarchy that kind of Batman supersedes.
Batman's
Yeah, I
going to
mean-
control the theater for at least 2
Yeah.
months. I mean, that's
Typically-
just how it's going to be.
Typically, it's a game of chicken with Marvel and DC. They both set that first week of May,
Yeah.
and then Marvel just goes, "We'll just wait on you to move." Because I mean, it happens all the time. I mean,
Well,
that's why
'cause-
Wonder Woman moved into June when Wonder Woman 1 came out.
It's because Batman, I mean, Warner Brothers, their other movies will make money, but Batman's Batman. That's
Yeah.
the one that's going to make money.
Yeah.
For sure.
That will probably be. Spider-Man will be the highest-grossing movie this year. Batman will probably be the highest-grossing movie
We'll see.
next
I think
year.
if we actually get Avatar next year, it will probably.
F Avatar. We've been waiting for 2008. Come on, it's already been 13 years.
I haven't been waiting because I've never seen it.
I love the first one. Like, I have watched it so many times.
Still not the same as it was in theaters, though. It was the best
No.
3D movie you'll ever
Yeah,
see.
but I mean, we're talking 2008 technology versus now, and it's still by far one of the visually best movies ever made.
Can I just say I'm glad the 3D movie craze is over?
I am too, because I usually can't see the effects with the glasses.
That's why I think I didn't prefer
Well,
it,
and, like-
except for Avatar.
Avatar, you could see it,
because
yeah.
you felt like you could sit there and touch the screen and stuff.
I get it for
mean, you can't touch
gimmicky
the screen, you
movies
just have
where
to run down there and do it.
stuff is coming out at you, but it got to where everything was just basically a scenic effect.
Yeah.
Did you notice that there was a hole in the screen last night at Dune?
No,
It was
did
like in
not.
the top right-hand corner. I kept thinking it was part of the movie. And I was like,
What?
It was the cigarette mark that they talked about in Fight Club.
That's
Just
because
stayed on.
Brandon took us to the Slum Theater.
oh, no. UA is the slum theater.
That's not even open anymore. They
Yeah,
closed again.
no. Oh, they closed again.
From what I understand, they're closed.
No,
again.
they had ticket sales for
Did they?
this movie.
Okay.
Yeah, they're back open.
Yeah, they
I
just reopened
I
They were
heard
the last
2 months
theater
ago.
to
I heard they're for
reopen.
sale, so
I heard they remodeled the inside
of the what?
of the UA.
I
Wait.
literally haven't been in there.
Like they
since.
were remodeled. While it was in
During COVID?
hiatus. Yeah, they
Did
remodeled
they
it.
put in recliner chairs?
That's the only thing. Like, I would go there more often if it wasn't for the crappy seats. Because, like, the
And the-
IMAX is the worst seat in the entire theater.
Well, not only
It's not even-
that,
it's not even-
not only that, it's just they don't turn the air conditioning up.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
It is always
Oh my
like
gosh.
a
I
feel
million degrees in there.
it's fine until the movie starts, and then you can hear it shut down. They're like, "We've got you. We've got you where we
So,
want you." It's
I
sweat.
don't. Tanner, you may be the only one that probably wasn't old enough to go. You might have been, but when Batman Forever, the one with Mr. Freeze.
we had the Westgate and the Cinema 6.
Well, when you went to the movie theater, when Mr. Freeze showed up, they actually had instructions for the theaters to turn the air conditioner up while he was on screen. And I remember they actually did that at our theater.
Really?
But yeah, they were actually supposed to turn the air conditioner up.
I still haven't seen Batman and Robin.
You haven't seen nipple suits?
I was about to say that's all about the nips.
For whatever
bro.
reason, that just fell at a point where I like.
Except for it was a little
at-
sexist because Alicia Silverstone didn't have nips on hers.
But you
Missed
went,
opportunity.
you went, and you went and watched that movie because Alicia Silverstone was in it.
Yeah.
That's
No.
why you watched it back then.
No, like I watched the crap out of Forever with Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones and everything, and then like Batman and Robin for whatever reason I never watched it.
You didn't miss anything.
Was that George Clooney?
George Clooney was
Yeah,
Batman.
George
and Robin.
Clooney was nips.
Val Kilmer was Forever.
Val Kilmer, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so I liked the one with Joker and Riddler.
Yeah.
Riddler and
Two-Face
Two-Face.
and Riddler. Yeah. I thought it was
So,
Tommy Lee Jones.
good.
so
Anyway,
that does propose a question. Since we're talking about, I know we got to get to this stuff. So we're getting Flashpoint through the Flash.
Duh.
So we're going to get Michael Keaton as Batman.
Yeah.
So technically, couldn't we get George Clooney and Val Kilmer as Batman as
sure
well?
could. Well, you're not going to
Well,
get Val Kilmer.
The DC's already said
You're not getting Val Kilmer.
No, I mean he's missing part of his tongue, but
DC's already
He can't
established.
talk. Period. He's missing his throat. His vocal cords are gone. Yeah.
DC's already established the multiverse in the Flash TV show.
I know. But I mean, we could instead of just Michael Keaton, we could be looking at, George Clooney.
Yeah.
See, the thing I think we're all wondering
They'd have to get him
is
first.
Michael Keaton's Batman actually going to be Dad, or is he just going to be Michael Keaton's Batman?
I think
So
that
that's kind of what we're going to get. somewhere
I
in there.
think that they are somehow going to tie Michael Keaton's Batman into a place where we can get Batman Beyond. That he will
That'd
be
be
the
cool.
one that will teach the next Batman how to be Batman.
The Terry or whatever. Terry
I don't know, I
McGinnis.
never watched it. All I know is it happened, and I know the premise of it. So Marvel dates moved a lot,
Yep.
which is going to be a long break in between the Spider-Man Homecoming
Yeah, be 4 months.
and Doctor Strange, which I would assume that they tie together.
Yeah. I
Because
think originally that was supposed to come out before Spider-Man. I thought
I have no idea.
because it was supposed to come out like last year,
So was Spider-Man.
last February or something.
Like everyone thing was supposed to come out last year. Like all this stuff. Like I don't know why anything is being delayed because
You've had an extra.
you've
year
had
to
a
work
whole
on it.
extra year.
Yeah.
And we've already seen that
It's-
movies are hitting.
Now
like,
some of the stuff,
At this point, it's all marketing. It's posturing.
some of the stuff is not made.
like flipping give me
older
Top Gun
stuff.
already so I can go find that movie theater with the moving chairs and watch Top Gun.
What did you go to Indiana or something like that?
It was like in Iowa.
Yeah.
Iowa has just this cool theater that the chairs move, and it's like a roller. You would get sick and die, but the rest of us would enjoy it.
and die.
It'd make you feel like you're going fast, Tanner. You can't do it.
A rusty needle would come out and just poke you and die.
No.
So you don't
Hunter seeker.
understand. This dude at every gas stop on the way to Orlando looked like he saw a ghost, just pale as could be.
Oh, motion
But you
sickness.
were driving like
No.
a madman.
It's because they were going so fast. Had nothing to do with motion sickness.
By fast, I was doing like
90?
miles an hour, which is pretty common. Like if you're not doing 90 in Florida, you're gonna
cause
get
an
ran
accident.
over.
You're gonna cause an accident.
You were going around people. Everyone else was driving normal. You were the only one driving like that.
Well, no, Amanda was too because she was following him.
No, eventually we said F this and we just went at our own pace the rest of the way home.
Y'all left without us.
Y'all texted us after we passed the exit and we were like, "Snap, screw this."
Tanner was like terrified of this hurricane, right? Just they were so worried about this hurricane. That
You
we're
don't
gonna have
drive
to
90 down a hurricane.
We did drive 90 down. Here's the thing: like the worst the hurricane ever got was a light shower. It was like
Oh, yeah.
little droplets of water
No.
every now and then.
When I
So,
drove through it, it was pouring rain on me.
the
When
second
I went
hurricane
through.
I drove through this year was definitely a lot more water.
It was.
but,
I couldn't go faster than 50 miles an hour because I couldn't see past the car.
but Tanner's just sitting there, just so scared because of the hurricane, and then it's like a sprinkle. Look at his face.
The hurricane was going fast, Darren. He doesn't do fast.
Moving on.
He's like
Rundown.
Turbo's brother.
So we also got the trailer for the Uncharted movie with Tom Holland.
That actually looks really good.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us here have
I've
actually
seen-
played the video games.
I saw this morning some swipes of just video game versus movie.
Yeah.
Kind of people just kind of showing off how they've taken things right out, and it looks.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like they're doing a really good job. I think hopefully people are going to be happy with it.
I
It looks
didn't
cool to me.
realize Mark Wahlberg was in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot
So-
of people are actually like, why didn't they just make him Tom Holland's character? I don't know
And
if
I-
they don't realize that he's like 70.
Right. Well, they also because originally, like when the Uncharted movies originally announced, I don't know if you've ever gone back and watched it, but Nathan Fillion actually did a short
Yeah.
where he actually was whatever the character's
Nathan
name.
Drake.
Nathan Drake.
Well, Nathan Drake was inspired by him. Like when they designed the character, they designed it with him in mind.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, he actually did a short where he did this whole like scenario, and it was actually really cool because he was trying to get people motivated to let him be the character.
Yeah.
But it was interesting as I was reading some stuff on Tom Holland playing this character, and they're saying he had a really hard time transitioning between geeky nerd Spider-Man
Yeah.
and overconfident hero guy.
Yeah.
And he was having a really hard Yeah, that was really weird. Y'all both just go, yeah, at the same exact time.
What do you mean,
Jinx,
Darren?
You owe me a Coke. Both of you.
So, but it was interesting to see, like, you know, he was actually struggling with the idea of having to go transition from one to the other. But I could see that because I mean he's been playing nerdy kid for years
Yeah.
now. Because even in that movie he did
One of these
came out
days he'll
last
actually
year,
get to be British.
maybe
Oh, the one with the
Chaos something another.
yeah,
Chaos
the
Awakening.
dudes who thought
He-
out loud.
You know, he was just a shy,
Another
kind of
American
nerdy
accent.
dude.
Yeah.
So
Well, and if you ever watch him in like interviews or anything like that, that's really
yeah, he's
kind
just
of how he is.
just
you know?
kind of a
I mean,
shy,
he's
nerdy
not really
dude.
a cocky person.
So you mean
it
he's
kinda
actually acting now for once?
Yeah, maybe that's what it is.
Finally, actually has to go on a stretch. So, and then in other news, this is kind of just quickly breaking as the time we're recording this. This happened last night,
Alec
and not
Baldwin?
4 hours away from here. I was wondering how long it was going to take y'all to notice.
I noticed the signatures, but I didn't notice that one. So.
Alec Baldwin.
Yeah.
Okay, sad news though.
Yeah,
It
sad
is- it
news.
is sad.
Somebody died and somebody else is in the hospital.
Like we were talking, like how does it happen? Like how?
Especially now, right?
Like,
Because we've
how
had
did-
other accidents So you would think at this point there would be no way.
Yeah. So for those that don't
Yeah,
know,
prop
that are
master
that are
let that
that are
happen.
listening to this and don't have any clue, which I doubt at this point.
It's
'Cause
only been all over social media.
Well, there's only 12 of you.
Alec Baldwin was shooting a movie in Santa Fe, and
Jim Lee better watch out.
He's in Albuquerque. He'll be
Oh
fine.
yeah, that's right. We talked
I
about
don't know,
this.
bullets can travel.
It's a
But,
long travel.
They were shooting a prop gun, blank gun, and the bullet a bullet was actually discharged from the gun, killed their director of photography, and has injured
The director of the movie.
the actual movie director.
Yeah.
Which is horrific. Not the first time we've heard of this happening. Of course, The Crow, Brandon Lee famously was shot in one of the scenes and ended up dying. You just wonder like how how does that even?
I have an answer.
All right.
And Tanner's giving us
Put it on
the
your
answer.
science hat. Let's go.
So there's two types of dummy rounds they use in movies.
Okay.
One is a dummy. One has a bullet in it for camera shots. One does not have a bullet. And there's three parts of the round. There's the primer charge, the main charge, and the bullet. So in that dummy round with the bullet, has a primer charge, no main charge, and a bullet.
Right.
So that's for like shots of them loading the gun.
Okay.
So what happened in the Brandon Lee case is they had that one in there, then they shot with the actual firing. That primer charge is enough to dislodge the bullet from the case into the barrel, but not enough for the bullet to leave the barrel.
So technically, it would just clog the barrel.
So
at
it
that
clogs
point.
the barrel.
Okay.
Then no one checked the gun to make sure that there was nothing in the barrel. There's still a bullet in the barrel. They put in the blank, which is a primer charge, a charge, but no bullet
For muzzle flash.
and
noise.
and then fire that. And at that point, it is essentially a loaded gun because then it fires the bullet out of the barrel.
The
like normal.
percussiveness of the blank charge
It's not going
actually
to go as
pushes
far
the
as a normal, but it go far enough.
I mean, it's essentially a
Yeah.
real bullet. I mean,
Well, yeah. I mean,
there's no difference at that point.
yeah.
Yeah,
So that's how it happens.
Over extreme distance, you may have.
Well, that's
some
how it happened
drop-off.
in that situation. I wonder what happened in the Alec Baldwin situation.
Which they're
I'm
still
sure
they're still
it's- yeah.
investigating it as to
I
why.
I saw a picture just scrolling through Facebook of Alec Baldwin that looked like he was on the side of the road or somewhere offset, looked like he was probably throwing up.
yeah, it's probably devastated. I
Yeah, I
couldn't
mean-
imagine. We were talking about that on the way to lunch. It's like, how could you got to live with that?
Accident
now.
or not, yeah, you hold on to that the rest of your life.
And then how does the authority step in? How do they look at this? I mean,
It's probably going to go to a case. It'll be involuntary
I-
manslaughter, or they're going to be.
Well, I
Fine.
doubt
Ruled an accident.
Yeah, as long as there is no intent, right?
Correct.
You need intent for criminal
Yeah.
for criminal charges. As long as it wasn't an intent to be negligent, like somebody knowingly
And
didn't skip the step, right?
that
well,
would
then
be-
that would go on to the prop guy, not
I would
Alec
say
Baldwin.
that probably
Correct.
wouldn't be Baldwin unless he was the one physically
Correct.
Yeah.
in charge of that,
And I really doubt he does anything
except for show up and
except for
shoot a
show
gun.
up and shoot his spots.
More than likely, probably, if it is just a genuine accident, no criminal charges are filed. However, the families
Civil suit could be
will definitely take the studio to task.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
for
Yeah,
sure.
there's going to be a payout of at least 6 zeros, maybe
Yeah.
7.
Yeah, I'm sure the studios are already figuring out that on their own. So
Oh, for
they know
sure.
what's
And
happening.
I'm sure there's probably liability insurance that does pad a little bit of that, but it only goes so far.
Because it can't be much different than when stunt people die on set.
Or even
from
you see
doing
with
the
actors.
stunts.
They just came out last week that Jason
Yeah,
Momoa
but-
got hurt on the scene Aquaman too.
But
So,
the thing,
I mean,
the camera crew doesn't normally fall under that, right?
it makes you wonder if he was like holding the prop like over to the side. It wasn't actually during a scene being shot.
Or maybe he
kinda
was firing it in a certain direction that
He was so close to
to
those
get a
two
camera
people.
angle on it.
Yeah.
And
those people were just in the wrong place.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
just
there's no telling. I'm sure we'll know more as we get. It's just a horrible situation. Feel horrible for the families. Feel horrible for him. Because
Not to mention that entire because from what I gather, those things are like family,
Yeah.
and so they sound like they lost a couple members of their family. So
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, that was pretty tragic. So moving on to our discussion question for tonight. So we're right in the mix of con season for 2021. How many more cons do you have this year?
we have 3 more scheduled.
But
for
there's one
us.
every weekend. So
Yeah, there's
Right.
one every weekend
If
now.
not
Sometime.
multiple.
I mean, last weekend there was 3 in a 4-hour
Do
radius.
cons typically take breaks around the holiday season?
Yes.
Right. Usually cons will kind of
There's usually nothing.
putter out right around the first week of December, except for this year.
Yeah.
This year we have 2 of the biggest shows back to back.
Well, I would say big shows are usually done
Yeah.
October.
So
For the most part, yeah, I agree with that.
so we started talking about signatures and because typically at cons you're going to meet celebrities or writers or artists to get signatures on your product and memorabilia. What and of course in most cases these people charge for their signatures.
Yeah.
Very very few do it for free, if at all. So the question you posed was, what makes a signature valuable?
No, the question was more of what are you willing to pay for a signature? Like if you were to go to a show and you were to look at all the celebrities and all of the artists in the room and you went around and you looked at price tags, because really what stemmed the question is Jim Lee being in Albuquerque this weekend and we were talking about his prices. What are you willing to pay for a signature?
Now you said this was for an experience though too, right? Not just a signature. Like it's a VIP package.
Yeah, I mean there were different levels you could get.
Yeah. I think that ties into it right there. What do you get for the signature? What are you paying for? Are you paying for just a signature? Are you paying for signature photo op? Are you paying for an experience like you used to do with Stan Lee where you're going to hang out for a few minutes?
Yeah. I mean,
How long is the line going to be? Because that kind of varies to me because there's no way I want to wait in line for 3 hours on something.
Yeah, the older I get, like if I don't know a person that knows that guy, I'm probably not getting a signature because I don't stand in lines
I
anymore.
would pay $500 for Andrew McCarthy's signature.
The one comic book convention we ever took you to, and that is still the one thing I laugh about almost 10 years later.
Why Andrew McCarthy was at a sci-fi convention,
Right.
Sci-fi comic convention.
The fact that you wanted to go create a sign, take it in his panel that just says, "Why are you here?"
I still wonder.
This is in between all of his smoke breaks out on the patio, flipping out about why he was there. To me, I would probably think that you are probably the most signature-driven person in this little circle
I'll pay
right
for
now.
a signature.
I know you will. Chris doesn't care. He doesn't collect things.
Nope.
Brandon doesn't care. He doesn't collect things. I
used to care.
used to care, and then I quit caring because all the people that I used to want to meet, I met them, and I no longer like them, like Rob Liefeld.
Yeah.
Or they passed away, sadly.
Yeah, understandably. But, and in our nature of our business, we get to know so many creators that it
Kind of
the signature doesn't mean
jades
as
that
much.
part,
yeah.
yeah.
Because I know that I could just walk up to them anytime and like sign this book. It's not like that experience for me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at a signature, Tanner, you being the key.
What about a celebrity? That's why maybe we need to go.
Yeah,
now.
let's go celebrity versus creator.
Sports too. We can roll sports figures into it.
Well, he's talking about
please,
for you.
Please look at Tanner.
Talking about you.
And then say the word sports again.
He grimaced.
He's wearing a baseball hat with a baseball team on it.
I like baseball and hockey.
Do you watch them on TV?
I watch them in person.
Do you watch them on TV?
I watch them in person.
No.
When was when was the last time you went and watched the Rangers play?
I don't travel. I watch Amarillo teams.
That doesn't count.
It does count. It's a sport.
If to travel, that means he has to
He's
go
a very
fast.
suffice to say he's a very niche sports fan.
So if you're paying for a local person from Amarillo's signature,
I'm not paying for a local sports
okay,
signature.
I'm just checking because you got me worried there for a minute. So back to celebrities, like what is the most you've ever spent on a signature, and
Okay.
and what was it?
So most I've ever spent on a signature, just the signature alone was $50,
Okay,
and it was, I don't remember if, actually I think Will Wheaton and Dean Cain charged the same amount that year. It was I got an action figure signed, Superman action figure, and then a piece of artwork.
you paid $50 for Will Wheaton's signature.
I think so. It was a long time ago, but that was about the
That
average.
makes it even worse.
That was about the average price.
It's Will
of
freaking Wheaton.
Will Wheaton. I ran into him in the airport once.
That was the average price of a celebrity signature at that show.
Yeah, I mean
That's
that's
actually pretty decent.
yeah, $50 is still pretty common.
Most I've ever paid just for like a whole package, I paid $500 for a Stanley experience, and that included 2 signatures, 2 photo ops, and a 30-minute meet and greet.
30-minute, man.
Now,
he doubled your meet and
but
greet
you
time.
were in a group of people, not one-on-one.
Right, there was about 30 of us.
Yeah, that's different. I was actually sat down with
One-on-one.
Stanley on my own for $300, and I got 2 or 3. But that was back in 2011.
And as many selfies as you wanted.
Yeah, I got an entire PlayStation full of photos.
That's the reason you still have that PlayStation.
It is. I keep that PlayStation because it has photos from when I met Stan Lee for the first time, and it has photos from when my daughter was born. Not in any particular order there, but that's why I keep that PlayStation.
You probably should get those off there before
Probably
it just
should.
degrades.
Correct.
Death.
Seriously. So what did you do? Upload them to the PlayStation?
Yeah, and then I lost the memory card.
Flash drive.
Yeah.
Did you not have a computer at the time or something?
It was a 3, PlayStation 3.
Yeah, probably not.
Like, who does that? Who uploads photos to their console?
I was creating a slideshow.
Hold on. Hold on. I'm going to put all my pictures on my daughter's leapfrog.
Well, you know.
Now, most of your bigger cast members, like all the Justice League, they were like 500 men. I think the
they're-
cheapest
yeah.
one for a while was Jason Momoa, and he was like 250.
Well, that's the same thing with Chris Evans to get a signature is $250.
Yeah, I think
Mark
Affleck.
Hamill's
Robert Downey
$250.
Jr. was $800.
Yeah, Gal
For a
Gadot was 600.
Yeah.
What, Shatner? Shatner was going for about...
He was around the 200
yeah.
range for a long time.
He had a long line at Dallas Comic Con, so
He always
people
has
were willing
long
to pay it.
lines.
That's for sure.
What's weird is he's been doing these shows for years, and he still he's like Stan Lee. He just gets the lines.
I think people
Yeah,
thought
the-
he was about to die because he was about to go into space. So we better get this.
Let's get this over with.
I mean, even Jason's fiance went and got a signature. She was like, "Hey, you may not be back next year. Let's go ahead and go get this done."
The year I met Stan Shatner was there also, and they had the exact same package for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was one year where
And he's like
I was
he's
at the show
92.
where Stan Lee and Leonard Nimoy met for the first time. I was at that show.
Yeah.
So, for me, I think the most I ever spent on a signature, Kobe Smulders was probably $60 for celebrities. Nathan Fillion would probably be my celebrity. The most I've spent. It was $80 on a Nathan Fillion signature.
I'd never paid for a signature. I never have.
And then Stan Lee.
I'd pay for Harrison Ford's signature.
Now, what about?
But then I'd also get kicked out of the venue because I'd just hug
He's
him
like
and say,
$750.
I'd be like, I want you to be my real father.
yeah, that's because he hates being there, and he's like, "You better pay me for being
Mr.
there."
Mr. Newberg, I just want you to know, Brandon doesn't mean that you were any worse of a dad. He just thinks Harrison Ford would have
You
done
just
better.
want Harrison Ford. Sorry. You tried.
So kind of twist it a little bit. What about a piece of art?
Oh God.
What would you? Now we know what you've paid for. Well, I know. But what would you pay for? Let's say at a show for just a little commission. Are you in the realm of 50 to 100, or you want to do more than that? If you're talking full-fledged pieces of art for covers, those are usually going in the thousands. But
I
just kinda
have
depends.
been on a list to get Mark Brooks to do something if we're ever at the same show on a big show where he's taking commissions, and that's $1,000. I will pay $1,000 because it comes full color rendering on 11 by 17.
okay,
I
remember you had Deodato do some stuff for you,
those were like $50
but they were
a piece.
still 11 by 17s, but they were big sketches.
Yeah, they were just big Sharpie sketches.
yeah, they were nice though.
No, they were $100 each, but they were. I mean, for $100, they were worth $100.
Yeah, they were nice.
Wayne Gretzky, I'd pay a ton of money for a signature.
That'd be cool.
I wouldn't say I would never not pay for a signature.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna go so far as to say I will never.
This last weekend, I wanted to go to Ming Na Wen and get one because my
Star
wife's
Wars.
Star Wars, but my
Mulan.
wife's obsessed with Mulan, so I think it would have been really cool. But then I went and looked at her line. I was like, that ain't happening.
Yeah, that show was packed. Motor City changed my perspective on how North shows should be. Because that show was packed.
You're supposed to look at the celebrity schedule and get in line before they get there.
Yeah, that wasn't going to work with the booth.
Yeah, we had a booth.
Because her and what's his other face that was playing the Moff from Star Wars, they were back to back, and they were both there at the same time.
I will tell you, Brandon, I do have some sports signatures that I bought off of eBay, but I've never been fortunate enough to meet any of the players I wanted to meet in person.
I think players are hard to meet in person because they don't do sports conventions, right?
Not when they're playing, maybe
pop,
later.
Yeah, with pop culture and stuff, you have a lot of you have
But
cons.
I guarantee you, if Fan Expo was to bring in Peyton Manning for one show, you would see an entire new fan base enter that building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you would change conventions if you bring the Manning brothers in.
All the closet nerds would be like,
But then I would have to bring my sign and be like, "This is a pop culture convention. Why are you here?"
I would say
The
that
the Wrestlers are there.
I'd say Manning fits in the pop culture stuff. He's done enough stuff.
That's just another version of acting.
It is acting.
Did you just add an A to the word wrestle?
He says it like our aunt does.
I know it's wrestling, but it's wrestling because it's not real.
Our aunt and uncle
If you're
both
from
say it that
Panhandle,
way,
Texas.
they're not kidding when they say it either. It's
Which,
wrestling.
for those that don't know, in like the 60s and 70s, like
We were
Amarillo was like a hot spot for wrestling.
I would say
Terry
all the way
Funk's
through
the Funk Brothers are from here.
It was
and-
mostly even through the early '90s. It was
Yeah, we
for
used to
quite
have
some time.
Yeah, we used to have huge WWF events here.
They called us
my dad, my real dad, not Harrison Ford, drank beer with Andre the Giant.
Last time the WF was in town, Amanda was the official massage therapist for it.
That's
She
cool.
got to work on all the wrestlers.
That's pretty cool.
Did she jump off the turnbuckles and just bam?
She should have.
Probably the first.
I'm
couple of
gonna
those
get
guys
that
probably
knot
need that.
right out.
I've seen some of those guys that worked on my chiropractors, and
Yeah.
man, I can't believe they're like, I can't move my arm anymore. I'm like, what?
Yeah, I will never say wrestling's fake because it's not fake.
It's fake.
It is staged. It's
yeah, that's the word,
choreographed,
yeah.
right?
So-
but there is talent there. There is physical talent. And they endure a lot.
Yeah, I mean that's why they're all.
It's acting.
I mean,
That's why so many of them end up in action movies.
Terry-
That's just like their stepping stone.
Terry Funk was
all the
our
wrestling.
trash customer for a long
man.
time, and that dude looked so
Poor dude.
crippled up.
I went to go work on cable in his house, and like he could barely move.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd see him like the first couple
But then
years
he'd
when he
go
was
on
out
TV,
there.
and he's all like, he must have been like
You
amped
know,
up on painkillers.
yeah,
think
you just take.
Couple of shots here and there.
Crystal said he'd come into the Olive Garden a bunch, and like he'd kind of limp in, and I mean just drink the whole time.
Yeah,
I mean, but
probably helps him
if-
feel better.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you're in pain all the time,
He's the nicest guy though.
Yeah, he's super nice. He always gave us a good tip at Christmas.
Yeah.
But the thing about signatures, just going back to signatures, is it's always gonna. There's actors. I've never outside of the Firefly cast. I've never really gotten a lot of actors. Like I've got Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I got those for free when I worked at Hastings. I got to go through the line at San Diego.
Yeah.
Agent Carter, I've got those signatures for free.
Like I
But-
could see my kids wanting to do some like Harry Potter stuff, but for me, it's just hard for me to want to do anything.
I paid $80 for Allie to go through a photo op with Ginny Weasley,
Yeah.
and that picture still hangs on her wall today. I mean, everything to her.
Yeah.
But that was one of those times that like I've never done a photo op with anybody outside of this, taking my own photos with Stan Lee or taking selfies with people.
or guests you've brought in for stuff.
Like I've never just gone and paid $100 to do a photo op with somebody.
It's just always been weird to me to be a fanatic. I think that's what it is for me. And I think that's kind of a lot of our age, right? It took a while for a lot of people to be like, yeah, it's okay for me to be. Because you got bullied for anything, right?
Yeah.
Now, I mean, if you're a fanatic
Yeah.
about things, everybody's okay with that,
That's-
know?
It's actually pretty interesting. I never looked at it from that perspective.
We had to be closet nerds growing up.
Yeah, we did.
I will say that to me, I value signatures way more than photo ops. And it's because all the stuff we have, it's copies of things. It's not actual. I mean, in a way, it's artwork, but it's a copy of an artwork.
Yeah,
Right.
It's just
And
a
that
signed
signature is that person basically validating that copy to me.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I have certain things at home that are off limits for me to ever offload. And a lot of it has to do, but going back to original art, I mean, how much is the most you've ever spent at a show on original art?
I've gotten $100 sketch.
$100 sketch. I really can't think of. I don't collect I don't do a lot of sketch covers anymore because I collect original cover art.
Yeah,
That's-
right. The last few sketch covers we got, it was with people we worked with, and they were just like, "Hey, here's this," and I was like, "Oh, I didn't
like to
ask
have-
for that, but okay,
Right.
thank you."
I have a notebook that I like to just have a different person draw.
I mean, you did some jam pieces.
Yeah, I did some jam pieces back when we first started doing this in 2011.
Like jam pieces.
Heck,
Yeah,
I
baby.
actually have.
I like that you air bass. Makes me happy.
When I hear jam, that's just
2016,
And you
2017, when we
left-hand
started doing conventions, I started doing jam pieces. And like I have something by Rob Liefeld and George Perez and Adam Hughes.
One of the
and
best parts of those stories is Neil Adams.
Neil Adams, yes.
He was like, "You want."
So
my
I got
version."
this George Perez thing in the middle of his paper of Rogue, and I was just gonna get Rogue all over this 11 by 17 sheet as a jam piece.
Freaking Neil
and Neil
Adams.
Adams, I walked up to him second, and I go, "I want Rogue," and he's like, "No, you don't." I'm like, but I do. He's like, but you don't. I was like,
I love Neil Adams.
I was like, why? He's like, well, I'm a better artist than George Perez. And see, George Perez took up the middle. And then I'm going to draw this way better piece over off to the right or off to the left. And you're just not going to like George's stuff anymore.
Freaking love Neil Adams.
So I went with Gambit. And sure enough, George, he was right. He's way better than George Perez.
You can have an ego if your ego comes back.
Yeah.
I got,
Neil Adams
I
is
got
awesome.
George Perez, Neil Adams, and Rob Liefeld all that weekend on the jam piece. And it was neat because Rob Liefeld, again, I've always been a fan of Rob Liefeld. I just don't, whatever it is with Rob Liefeld versus stuff that we do as covers.
Well, just in general, his public persona.
Yeah.
He actually took my piece back to his hotel room and brought it back, and it was awesome. It was, I mean, I still loved the Wolverine he drew on my jam piece, but I just...
He didn't have feet, so it was great.
Yeah, didn't have feet at all, but lots of...
Yeah, they were there. They were just teeny tiny.
They were running underneath
and
the
then
rogue panel.
Adam Hughes drew on that. He drew a Psylocke because I did X-Men Gold, X-Men Blue. So the first panel was the blue team, and I went up to his wife because she was the one that you had to talk to, and it's like, I want Psylocke, and she's like, Adam won't do that. He won't draw on that. Why not? Because everybody else is on there. I'm like, okay. And then when I got up to Adam, I was like, will you draw on this? Yeah.
They probably had a fight the day before. You need to stop drawing on.
She's just looking over his shoulder like, you bastard.
Yeah.
So, needless to say, I may never get another Adam Hughes sketch again.
Darren's one of those people we try to keep people from the artist.
So in the comments below, what is the most you've paid for a celebrity or
How
signature? How much? And kind of what are your qualifications for wanting a signature, and what are you putting the signature on? Do you have an autograph book? That used to be a thing.
Yeah.
A book of autographs.
I have one that's in the Philippines currently with Jay Anacleto.
Oh, sad. Haven't seen him, and that better be a really nice sketch when you get that back.
So yeah, definitely comment below. Let us know your thoughts on signatures. So we're going to take a quick break so Tanner can leave and go put cotton in his ears and close the door. Because he did not watch Dune. When we come back, we're going to give you our reactions to the Dune film that released this week. Back in a second.
Bye.
And we're back. Thank you so much. So we actually lost Darren as well because Darren unfortunately had to run off. So it's just me and Chris.
Yeah,
but
I was there. I saw the movie,
which is nice because you came at the movie from a perspective of you've never read the book.
I have zero knowledge.
You have never seen the original movie. You've never seen the miniseries. You know Zip Zero Nothing.
Yep.
Whereas I do because I have.
Yep.
So
Brandon's the Dune.
So one thing that we talked about afterwards, overall. So my first impressions is I quite enjoyed the movie.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it from a person who's already a fan of the franchise, and I'm getting to see this big epic scope.
Yep.
In modern cinema, right? Which is, it's weird to say that something in the 80s is not modern cinema, but
they had vision before they knew it.
Yeah, right. 40 years ago. So I'll say this: Dune was always kind of labeled the unfilmable story.
Yeah.
Like in the 70s, an Italian director named Alejandro Jodorowsky was going to make a film adaptation of Dune. And it never left pre-production. Yeah. It bombed even before they could actually shoot.
If you think about other sci-fi movies in the 80s, I mean, I could understand why.
So mid 70s, it just tanked. He had grand scope for what it was going to be, but it just never worked. David Lynch comes around in 1984 and makes a stab at it and does some things well. Mm-hmm. But again, it's a lot of story to compact into a feature-length movie, which I would say probably in the mid 80s, you didn't have a lot of movies that were super long.
Yeah.
Older film, older Hollywood, might have like Gone with the Wind.
You for sure did in the old times, right? But they would do intermissions. I mean, it was a whole experience when you went.
You went to the theater for the.
It was like you were going for like an actual full play.
Yeah.
So they kind of still did movies that way.
Yeah. And so love it or hate it, the David Lynch version did some things right, did some things really weird.
Yep.
And kind of took the story in weird directions. Had some kind of like the inner monologuing in David Lynch's version was just weird, where they pretty much just
They were narrating.
They were narrating, but it's because they're thinking to themselves, and so they whisper the whole time as things are happening. And then the miniseries did a pretty good job. Of course, it was super low budget, so the effects weren't great, but did a better job. And one of the beliefs that I think I have is, I think, as good as I felt this film was, and of course, for those that don't know, it's just the first part of the first book.
Part 1.
It was part 1, and then hopefully part 2 gets made. They haven't even shot it.
I would hope they would make an announcement after this weekend.
Yeah, because it definitely leaves as a part 1. There is no resolution to the story, no true resolution to the story.
Yeah, kind of as soon as you get to where you're excited, it ends.
I really think Dune would have benefited from a large budget television series.
Yeah,
I think
it's character development, right?
In my opinion, for what it is now, that epic, what I call epic television, high budget television, Game of Thrones, Expanse, stuff like that,
Daredevil, things like this. Yeah,
I think novels are better suited for that format. Because you can chapter it out, right? And you can do that exposition.
The size of the universe that you're trying to create for somebody to understand.
Yeah.
I think that's a big part of it, right? You're trying to somehow, if you weren't a reader, then like I am, there's so many questions.
There's a lot of backstory that they had to live out. And Denis Villeneuve, who directed it, went on record as saying he had to focus on Paul as the central focus of the story, right? So a lot of the stuff that's there, he had to cut out, and I think with good reason. I don't think it really it serves to make the world more alive.
Yeah.
But I don't think it moves the plot, right? So there are things like you meet Thufir Hawat, who is the House Atreides Mentat. You meet Peter De Vries, who is the House Harkonnen Mentat. They're the dudes with the little stripe.
Yeah. Looks like they do calculating in the brain. You kind of figure that out, right? If you had any idea of kind of what was going on.
Yeah. You see Thufir's eyes kind of flip up in his head, and
when he's doing equations.
But it never explains what a mentat is.
Yeah.
That they're necessary because there was.
I don't think it mentions them, right?
It really doesn't refer to them as mentats at all. They're just advisors.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't explain that the reason they're necessary is because computers are illegal in the universe. Because there was a artificial intelligence uprising. That is kind of the backstory of Dune. But again, looking at it objectively, to add something like that did not affect Paul's story.
Yeah, it would just take away from the minutes they already had to tell what this.
Right, you've got a limited budget of minutes that you have to make. It's already going to be a long film.
Yeah,
because technically, part 1 and part 2 comprise the entire film. So that's going to be 5 hours.
And we may get some of that in the second movie. They
maybe
may explain more of that or whatever. So.
Yeah, now that they've kind of exposed a lot of the characters, maybe they can go back and flesh out the backstory and kind of do it out of order that the books do it in.
And spoiler alert, there's not as many of those characters in the second movie.
No, it does. There's lots of death.
Yeah.
It also doesn't explain.
I was surprised by that. I was like, wow, this is getting Game of Thrones up in here.
Yeah.
Like, it's getting hardcore.
What else was a kind of a major plot line that doesn't really get flushed out?
You don't really see, you have the Emperor, but you don't really know what he is. You have the witches. I have no idea what they are.
The Bene Gesserits,
Yeah. I've got no background on those ladies except for their, apparently they're kind of like, I would say they're influencers, kind of like what you see in The Witcher.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like, I guess that's kind of their place. So
very, very similar, actually.
But outside of that, you're really just following the main character, Paul.
And honestly, I think even in the novels, the Bene Gesserit are supposed to be mysterious. You're not supposed to know a lot of their inner workings, and I would say they go so far to explain more of what they're about than they do the other factions. You don't really understand a lot of the backstory between Atreides and Harkonnen, like why they hate each other so much.
The fact that there is a entire prophecy about this kid, but you still have no idea what the prophecy is.
Yeah.
By the end of the movie.
Yeah.
You just know he is in it. apparently. Maybe.
Well, and
You don't know if it's
and
some
what
kind
you
of salvation. Is he supposed to become controller of everything? Like, you don't know what that prophecy, they don't ever say that.
yeah, and what you come to find out is that the Bene Gesserit, they have their ultimate goal. Their ultimate goal is to create what they call the Kwisatz Haderach. Kwisatz Haderach. It's hard to say. And it's hard to spell. The Kwisatz Haderach, which is like the supreme being, right?
Well, I guess they did say that a little bit. They mentioned that for a split second, they wanted somebody that could cross time, cross space, all at one moment.
Right, and
Yeah.
that is that ultimate being that they're trying to breed into existence, and so they're moving everything to further that goal. And
They barely hinted at the fact that the mom and dad were not married. Like, if you didn't catch
Yeah.
those two lines, your concubine's dying, and the fact that one line where he says, "I should have married you," if you didn't catch those two, you would have never known they weren't married.
yeah, which it just sounds weird, but that's actually a very old tradition of you marry for politics, you have concubines for love.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. That was, I mean, you see that in the Old Testament of the Bible.
Well, and
right?
the fact that she probably couldn't marry because of what she was.
Right.
I would think that's probably also in there.
She already does a lot of things against the order.
Yeah.
To start with, she has a son. She's not supposed to have a son.
So that was a question I had. I was like, can she control that? Because if they can, they didn't say anything about that either.
They can't control it. There's a lot of things the Bene Gesserit can do that don't get fleshed out.
So it makes you wonder: is the second baby that she's going to be a girl?
Do you want to know?
You can just tell me.
I can tell you. Yes.
Okay, I figured it was. That was my figure.
It is a girl.
Right.
And
I'm going to read the book before the next movie comes out. So
and she becomes a special being in of herself.
I would think so, because it's still between those two.
Yeah. So there's a whole plot line with her, and it spills over into the next book.
It's going to get King Arthur style, where she's a bad witch. It's all these different things pulling into here now.
Yes and no.
Yeah.
I mean, it becomes a source of conflict later in future books. Not so much in this particular book. She's very much she's young in this one. As she gets older, it does become kind of a source of conflict between
The two siblings.
yes. Not to divulge a whole lot, because you do want to be surprised.
Someday
by the
there'll be
book
movies.
Yeah. But it doesn't go into that a whole lot. Because honestly, the fact that she was pregnant, I missed it because I went to go use the restroom.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I knew it. I mean, I just can't remember. It's been a while since I've read the book, so I can't remember when it was mentioned and when it was known. And then you don't hear a lot about just a lot of the other kind of factions that are in. You hear a little bit about the Spacing Guild that has the Navigators, and that's what Spice is for. Spice.
Basically, you see those two families, and you see, I guess, the Emperor's personal army.
The Sardaukar.
Yeah, and that's really all we see.
Yeah. Which is weird. Like, they kind of changed up the Sardaukar a little bit. If I remember right in the book, the Sardaukar were disguised as Harkonnen troops.
They didn't straight up look that way.
They didn't look like Sardaukar because the Sardaukar were very offended that they had to dress like Harkonnens.
Yeah.
But it was so that the Emperor's involvement was kind of masked.
Yeah.
In
this case, there wasn't supposed to be any survivors to tell the story.
Right.
And
That's kind of, there's no satellites. Nobody's going to know. And that's fine.
Yeah.
On screen, they did it because you want to be able to differentiate the Sardaukar from the base Harkonnen troops that didn't
makes
have.
Sense.
You'll notice the Harkonnen troops didn't have shields.
Yeah.
They're just throwaway, right? It's a very Harkonnen thing. The higher ups, Harkonnen
shields.
himself had shields.
Yeah.
But like the grunts didn't, whereas all the Atreides grunts did.
Yeah.
Because that's just that.
They took care of themselves.
Yeah, their lives are important, whereas Harkonnen doesn't. I don't know if you noticed this.
Money.
So, in regards to Leto, and to a smaller extent, Paul, what is one common theme or symbol you kept seeing?
Between who?
Like when you would see like shots with Paul and with his father, mostly with his father though, what was a symbol you kept seeing a lot? And this is something the miniseries in the book never, or the miniseries in the original movie never really touched on. It was in the book.
The bull?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Leto's father, as a hobby, was a bullfighter.
Yeah, and they mentioned that in the movie.
Yeah, they do mention it. Well, the bull was symbolic.
Is it a family crest?
No,
It wasn't on his ring.
Atreides is an eagle.
Yeah, I was about to say. I thought it was a bird.
The bull doesn't. The bull represents kind of
Taking risk.
The Empire. That basically they were playing a game,
Okay.
and then that's what ends up. A bull ended up killing his grandfather,
Okay.
and then the kind of the bull is what ends up killing Leto. Right? There's always that conflict and playing the game and trying to come out. Leto knew going into it.
Yeah.
He's up against a wall.
He was skirting the risk. As you would with a bull.
And it also doesn't talk. Really, Leto didn't have a choice. He had to accept.
Yeah, I'm sure there's
taking
some kind of
stewardship.
rule if the house doesn't accept things, then probably things are going to start tearing away from you. And,
Yeah, it was gonna be a domino effect where they were gonna lose everything.
Yeah.
Because somebody has to mine spice.
Yeah.
And so ultimately,
It's interesting to me that the fact that, I mean, he's got a good name, cool, whatever. Emperor's jealous, but these other guys are super freaking rich. You would think that would be the people that would be more scary to you.
yeah.
And then he puts them right back in.
So
So it's just kind of an interesting theory to me that the Emperor is pissed off about them, and they haven't even done anything. They don't mind their own business.
I think Leto sees it. Leto sees it as he's technically the Empire is threatened by both of them.
Yeah.
He's threatened more by the Atreides because of the
name.
the power that they're growing. He's becoming more popular in the Landstrad. It doesn't talk about the Landstrad.
Yeah.
So the Landstrad is like the Council of Houses.
It's political.
Right.
Yeah.
It is basically how the Empire kind of maintains control. They have to control the Landstrad, or else the Emperor has no control. Right.
Yeah.
The Emperor, all he has is these Death Troopers, the Sardaukar, and then what power is given to him by the Landstrad. So if Atreides is getting higher in popularity, he has power that way. Harkonnen's getting power by wealth, but still not.
I still feel like some of this stuff, if he really wanted to, he could go back and do flashbacks in the second movie and give
possibly.
us that. I think that's how a lot of those kinds of things
There's still a lot of ground to cover in the second movie.
Yeah, I'm sure there is.
there's just a lot of stuff like the sister,
Yeah.
And Fremen and everything that
Him training.
comes with that.
Yeah. And it looks like he's probably going to be there for a while because eventually his eyes are going to turn blue.
Yep.
Just from what we've seen. So.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. The time jump is there. Some time does pass.
Yeah.
The Harkonnens pretty much get back. Get
Control.
Arrakis back.
They're spicing it up.
And they're doing their thing, and they forget about at this point the Baron thinks
Everything's
Paul's dead.
Yeah.
And he also doesn't think that there's that many Fremen, that they're a huge threat. So
Yeah, they mentioned that in there. They think there's only like 50K. There's millions.
yes, yeah,
So-
that they totally underestimated them. It really doesn't talk about kind of the origins of the Fremen.
Mm-hmm.
They're humans.
Yeah.
They're not native to Arrakis, but they're the descendants of colonists that landed on Arrakis to turn it into to terraform it,
Yeah, they were going to waterform it.
until they found spice, and then
That's
nope,
everything. Yeah.
nope, we need that. And you may find out why certain things go hand in hand later. There's a significance to different things. I'm trying to be like
Non-spoily is spoily.
Yeah, I'm trying to be as non-spoiler for future.
Why couldn't they just have the whole movie?
I know, it's like
I would have sat there for another 2 hours.
I wish there was a book.
I was into it.
I wish there was a book you could just read and get it all.
Well, I will be doing that. We got to finish Ready Player 2 first.
There you go. So it's easy to see, looking at Dune, it's easy to see its influence on future sci-fi. Definitely Game of Thrones. Definitely a lot of things borrowed from it over time. The crazy thing for me is Frank Herbert, the author, had never wrote a fictional story before Dune in his entire life.
Yeah.
Like, he was a journalist. He was not a huge sci-fi fan up until like right before he
I
started.
think that helps in a way, though, right? Because it's kind of like coming at it fresh.
Yeah, yeah. So nobody had ever written anything that There was fantasy writers.
Because this is like what I think it says year 10,000, something like that.
Yeah, it's very far human future.
Yeah.
Our reality future. It's funny, like they don't talk about religion a whole lot in it, except that pretty much the Bene Gesserits are kind of seeding prophecies in all these cultures to try to
push it
to try to push their agenda.
Their agenda push
right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of the things the Fremen believe, come to find out, it's because the Bene Gesserit over time had been kind of seeding these prophecies and over time blossomed into, their thing. And Paul says something very true. They see what they were told to see.
Yeah.
Right. So
at the same time, I mean, seeing what you're told to see and it actually happening is a pretty big deal on its own, right?
Yeah. The Bene Gesserit don't do that for nothing.
Yeah.
Like it matters.
They have reasons.
Yeah, it matters. What they do matters, and they're actually influencing and they believe they're very close to the Kwisatz Haderach. Kwisatz Haderach. It's Kwisatz, ends with a Z, Haderach, but I jack up the words.
It just goes together. It's one big thing.
He has so many names.
Yeah. Like Desert Mouse.
Desert Mouse, Muad'Dib, Mahdi, which is Messiah in the Fremen language, which is Messiah in in Arabic as well.
Arabic, yeah.
And they call him the Lisan al-Gaib, which is the voice from the other world.
They call him Paul.
They call him Paul. That's his given name. Son.
Saul. Wait, that's a whole other
Yeah. He has many names, and that plays a lot because as we get further on in Paul's life, those names,
they probably have different meanings at different times.
Yeah. He embodies them at different.
There's
at
evolutions of Paul,
and there's some names that technically aren't his, but but you think they are. So I won't tell you which ones they are.
Like Paul.
No, that's not really his name. But no, it was good. It was shot very beautifully.
Yeah.
The pace is very slow.
It is, but I still think it was enough to where it would get to the next thing quick enough.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I was interested the whole way through. I think that's a big thing. So I mean, and maybe that's because I saw that Green Knight movie not long ago, and I
still haven't watched that.
God, it was awful slow. Awful slow. And eventually it got there, but
yeah, it's an art house movie.
Yeah,
that's just part
again,
of it.
It was a beautiful movie.
Yeah,
but it was so slow. So so maybe it just kind of prepared me for Dune.
Yeah, and I think that's why they brought Denis Villeneuve in. He's that blend of blockbuster director and art house director. I think that's what they wanted. They wanted that. So if you watch The Arrival or Blade Runner, that's kind of where he sits. He sits in between those two kind of.
And I think Blade Runner was slow too, but it was just kind of there wasn't enough meat for you to really understand too much. Right?
I enjoyed it just because I enjoyed the first movie, but it was
just kind of confusing.
It was and it was definitely slower paced. But no, I thought he did well. I'm excited for part 2. I can't imagine the studio's not going to push part 2 out.
I wouldn't see why not. I mean, the movie was definitely good enough for part 2.
Yeah.
It wasn't trash. I think it should gain traction. If it's not already getting traction, there should be enough time here. I mean, they pushed Venom up a few weeks because I think they were afraid of Dune.
Yeah.
Because they were going to be basically launching at the exact same time. Hopefully over the next few weeks it makes tons of money and they can for sure greenlight.
But Halloween Kills still got the big screen at one of our theaters.
And I think it's weird because Halloween Kills got $60 million last weekend. It's like the most for a rated R movie like that.
Yeah.
There was a slasher movie. So.
Exactly. Slasher movies don't need epic theaters. They're not epic movies.
So, but it was good. I'm happy. Dune was great. It's from a guy that had never watched anything, and I kind of purposely didn't want to.
Yeah.
I didn't want to read the book beforehand. I kind of like on big things like that, kind of now I have a visual of, even though they may not be what the book's going to describe, it still helps me mentally kind of see.
I mean, when I read the book, all I could see was the '84 movie.
Yeah,
because that's all I'd ever seen. Because growing up, my brother watched it a lot, so I had watched it. I don't know how many times.
Yeah,
like I just knew the story. I knew parts of the story. Let's say I didn't comprehend the story until later, until I got older. It really wasn't until I had seen the miniseries before I read the book too. Yes, it wasn't until I watched the miniseries that I finally started putting the story together. And like after the miniseries, I'd go back and watch the '84 movie, and like I said, it's good and it's bad.
Yeah. It's a huge science movie.
I would recommend since you're going to read the book, I'd go ahead and do that. Get that done. Then maybe go back and watch the '84 movie. If you can find the miniseries, I don't know that there's anywhere you can stream it.
Who owns Sci-Fi?
Universal, but it's not on Peacock. I've already checked.
That's weird.
You can actually find it on YouTube. I did find it on YouTube.
It's out there.
Yeah, it's so low budget that I'm sure they're probably not just
Peacock's like, it's on the list, but we'll get there.
Yeah, I mean that was like the pre-Sharknado sci-fi,
Yeah.
right? So a lot of that stuff didn't quite make it over. Well, and it could be that Universal doesn't own the rights to it; they just showed it.
As far as, because everything's about creating universes now, right?
Yeah,
Is there a place in the Dune story arcs where they can make a Dune universe?
I think so.
TV shows,
we're
other
seeing,
movies.
We're seeing it already in comics. So the House Atreides and the Blood of the Sardaukar, those are all original stories. Now, I will say, so basically, here's what happened: is Frank Herbert wrote his first 6 books. So from 1965 to 1986, because he did see the 84 movie get made. He wrote the first 6 books. So it's Dune, Dune Messiah, Children of Dune, Heretics of Dune, God Emperor of Dune. Those 2 may be flipped, and then Chapter House Dune. Those are Frank Herbert's 6 books. Those are considered like the canon 6, right?
Yeah.
After that, his son Brian partnered with his buddy, who was a short story writer, and he was also a big Dark Horse writer for a long time. He wrote a lot of Star Wars stuff.
Okay.
Kevin J. Anderson.
Okay.
So comic writer background, they kind of teamed together to write, to keep it going, right?
Yeah.
And they've written a bunch of side novels and stuff like that, a bunch of prequel novels to kind of flesh out the universe to varying degrees of quality. Let's say most people.
They still kind of go back and forth in the timeline with those different stories, kind of filling in things.
They're using Frank's kind of notes that he had. Frank was not like Tolkien.
Yeah.
Where Tolkien had these tomes of notes that, Christopher Tolkien
Could pull from
when he wrote.
Or even when they're making the Hobbit trilogy, and
Yeah.
they can go and, well, yeah, I mean, that'd be in the book, but it is there. We found it in his notes.
I think Frank Herbert had a little bit of that, but not a lot. So they're basically creating stuff from what they knew. But like I said, these Kevin J. Anderson, it's just brand new stuff.
They're basically 5-issue miniseries that they're doing, kind of like one-off stories.
Yeah.
And I think Dark Horse is still publishing those, right? No, or is it Dynamite? No, not Dynamite.
Boom, isn't it? I don't know. I can't keep.
It's either Dark Horse or I think it is Dark Horse.
It may be.
Yeah.
Kevin J. Anderson is pretty closely aligned with Dark Horse.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of stuff for them. And 'cause he did like a lot of the Tales of the Jedi stuff, Jedi Academy, a lot of the old EU stuff. He was responsible for. I've never read anything past the 3rd book.
Okay.
So that's all I've ever actually read. I need to go back and
Well, I'm
finish
kind
those.
of a completionist, so that'll make it a little bit easier because there's only 6 of them.
Of his, yeah.
Yeah.
And then if you like it, you can kind of move off and
Like I've been reading so many Star Wars books, and I'm like, man, there's no way I'll catch up.
Like I said, the Brian Herbert, Kevin J. Anderson stuff's kind of hit or miss.
Yep.
Some of them hit pretty. Like there's a prequel that actually talks about the AI revolution, the Butlerian Jihad.
Yeah.
So there's an entire series of books devoted to that. So if you like the universe and you want to go back and dive into it, it's there. They actually told a lot of original stories through video games. There was a strategy computer game called
Dune is Warner Brothers. So if we do see a live action universe, we'll see it through HBO Max and we'll see it through screen.
Yeah. It depends on what Warner Brothers agreement.
Right now they're focused on, of course, DC stuff, but it'd be nice to see them get focused on something else too. So
yeah.
Of course, the Game of Thrones stuff, they're kind of slowly creating a universe for that as well. So
yeah. I recommend it. I thought it was a good movie, especially if you're already a fan of the franchise. Yeah. It's kind of a no-brainer. You're going to be a fan of it regardless.
If you're a science fiction fan, it's great.
Yeah. If you like those big, expansive worlds,
go into it knowing it's slow, and then just enjoy it.
Yeah.
So
definitely. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We will be back next week. We will be back live next week on our original Thursday time slot. Probably should have said this before we went into the spoiler only, but it's cool. Anyways, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.
Later.